Hello, good morning, buenos dias. If you don't already know and you haven't been keeping up with my recent uploads, then let me just go ahead and tell you that your girl has been going through some pretty big life changes lately. And as someone who, felt like they really knew themselves, they were super confident, I know who I am, what I like, what I don't like, etc., etc. Let's just say that God has really been humbling me lately. Now, if you're watching this video and you feel like no one can tell you about you and you are super confident in your strengths, limitations, all of that, I'll just go ahead and tell you right now that you're probably wrong. And if you don't agree, that's okay. This is just me speaking from personal experience. So let me just go ahead and tell you guys about everything that has had me all twisted up lately. So at the start of the year, I decided that I wanted to go to more dance classes and really improve my technique, that kind of thing. And I actually included that on my vision board, which I made a video about, so I'll link that for you guys as well. Anyway, when my usual instructor that I go to her classes announced that she was having a summer intensive, I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is literally exactly what I was looking for. So let me go ahead and sign up. But then once the weekend came around for the intensive to take place and the schedule was circulated, I bailed. I texted my instructor and I actually lied to her, telling her that I got COVID and I wasn't going to be able to make it to the dance class. And I just convinced myself that I was fine with taking the L on the fee that I paid instead of going. And it's not like it was cheap either. I paid a good sum of money for this, and I was just like, I don't gotta go. I'm good. I can't do that stuff that's on there, and there's no point in going and embarrassing yourself. To give you guys some context on the intensive itself, in case you don't know what it is, it's essentially a long-term dance class. Day one was going to be a 5-hour day where you got in, did some stretching, some warm-ups, you learned 3 different dance routines, and then did some strength and conditioning work or whatever. And then the next day was another 5-hour day where there would be a photo shoot included and a solo of one of the routines that you learned the day before. I had never danced more than 1 hour straight before this. So, I'm the kind of person where if I'm gonna do something and the opportunity comes up, and it's very likely I'm just going to jump into the deep end, all the way in, and really just kind of overwhelm myself, which probably isn't the healthiest thing. Anyway, I had never danced more than an hour. And so I was like, it's fine. I knew going into it that it was going to be long days. But when I saw the schedule and it specifically said the part about the solo performances, that's where I was like, no, I'm not cut out for this. I'm not gonna go up there and embarrass myself. I'll go up there and learn things in the group, but for the solo, all eyes are on you, right? That's the point of it. Anyway, that happened. And so then 2 months later, my instructor actually sent me a text message saying that she was hosting another dance intensive. And because I had paid for the first one, but I couldn't make it because I had COVID, she had saved me a spot in the second intensive. So at this point I was like, well shit, I can't sit here and make up another excuse about why I can't go, because then she's gonna know that I'm bullshitting. So I just gotta suck it up and go to this intensive. What happened was that it actually turned out to be one of the best experiences of my life. I was able to push myself so much farther than I thought I could. My solo wasn't perfect, but I felt really confident and I felt really good about it. And everyone was super supportive, which is probably surprising to nobody watching this. The whole experience honestly gave me so much more confidence that I could do more than my head was telling me I could do, that I could really push myself and trust myself and trust my body to keep up with it, instead of just being so in my head and feeding self-doubt and negative thoughts. So the second instance of this, I would say, has to do with me and my YouTube channel. I started my YouTube channel in 2022. I think it was the second half of the year, and I was putting out videos pretty consistently. But then 2023 came around, and in the spring I fell off, primarily because of my job and how it was affecting me mentally and emotionally. I tried to set time aside after I fell off to get back on top of things. I really wanted to integrate and add TikTok into the mix, which if you've been on my TikTok, you can probably tell because I have these 2 random videos from months ago. But when I tried to sit down and work on something creative, I had a really hard time accessing that creative side of my brain, and I had a hard time just like coming up with things. And even when I occasionally did come up with something, I had a really hard time like setting time aside to do it, which you guys would know if you watched like my lesson 1 video, because I was just in bed all the time. Like I was not in a good mental space at all. So like I couldn't push myself to go and like actually push out the energy and make time to film. And even on the instances where like I could make the time, where I could push myself, have a little bit more to give, I convinced myself that the idea was trash. So there was no point in filming it anyway, because I didn't want to watch it. Nobody would be interested. So like, why even put the time in? So what happened was that eventually I just like stopped even trying to access that creative side of my brain at all. And I really just like let it die, because I felt like I didn't have it in me. And then fast forward to the summertime after I quit my job, like I had this renewed like desire, not immediately, but it definitely came back without even me like trying or like thinking about it. It was just on my mind, and the ideas just kind of like started coming naturally. And this thing that I convinced myself like wasn't for me anymore, that I wasn't a creative person, that I didn't have it in me, it wasn't made for me, like there was like a resurgence of sorts. And so that was just like a really big sign and a really big like indicator that there was some kind of block there in my own head, probably from like outside circumstances. But regardless, there was like a block there that was keeping me from it. And it's not that it wasn't true, it was just something in my head wasn't allowing me to like be that person. Fast forward to the end of summer, after I had quit my job, I decided that I really needed some time to decompress and do absolutely nothing. I was so negatively affected and impacted by the job I had just left that I felt like I needed to just be. Like when I was in bed every day after clocking out, like that, but be at peace not knowing I had to clock back in. So really just like allow everything that was like in my head that was negative, it wasn't good for me, all that nervous energy, to just exit. And as someone who's like never taken time off between jobs and, you know, likes having things to do, I felt like 2 weeks was like a good amount of time. Like I felt like it was a pretty like long time to be doing nothing. And I thought it was gonna be enough for me to feel like rejuvenated and hit the refresh button before I could get back into things. And obviously I was wrong, because isn't that how things are going? Is that not the trend of this video? But after like a week and a half of just like chilling, doing nothing around the house, I was like, yeah, I'm ready to get back into it. Let me go into my home office and work on some YouTube stuff or TikTok or whatever. Like I can't remember exactly what it was. But what I do remember is the immediate sense of like negativity and like anxiety, worry, pressure that I felt as soon as I went back into my home office. I turned the light on, walked in, sat in the chair, and it was just like I was dragged back down to zero, which is where I was at when I had quit the job. Going back into the space where I had spent so many hours like feeling down about myself when I was working my 9-to-5 job immediately put me back into a super unhealthy headspace. And it was such a strong negative reaction that it was very clear and very obvious to me that I was not ready, no matter what I had told myself, that I had rested too long, that I was good to go, that, you know, I was reset and I was ready to jump back into things. Like, no, obviously not. So it really forced me to like take a step back, recenter, refocus, and like really think about what I needed in that moment. Like, you're not ready. So what do you have to do? You have to heal. You have to let go of the baggage. You need more time to like settle into, you know, who you are and focus on things that matter, which was to allow my mind and body to heal instead of trying to like accelerate the process and go right back into like being productive, because that's what I was so used to. In each of those situations, I thought that I knew where I was at. I knew what I needed. I know who I am. I'm good. I don't need to do anything, change anything. But it turns out I really didn't know shit. And I've previously touched in my videos on the fact that like right now I'm going through a lot of changes and transitions in my life. And I feel like the change in this specific regard was about me like taking a step back and forcing myself to let go of what I think I know and get out of my head to see like what's really going on. A lot of the times we think that we know who we are or what we need better than anybody else, and it's completely fair because we're the ones that live inside of our minds and our bodies. So like no one knows you better than you. But at the end of the day, like there are still things you don't know about yourself, and there are things you think you know about yourself that might not be true. You know, people say all the time that like your brain tricks you. Your brain actively tries to keep you in situations that are familiar. And it does that even if those situations aren't actually good for you. Like it's just familiarity and comfort, and so it tries to keep you there. So what we need to do is actually like get out of our heads sometimes, because it might be one of those situations that like is actually not bad for you. It's just a comfort zone, a comfort area. And so get out of our heads, pay attention to like our bodies and our hearts and our spirits, how we're reacting to things, how things are affecting us, to really see what it is that we need besides what we think we know, what we think we need. Am I limiting myself here? Am I pushing too hard over there? That kind of thing. And so the point of doing this and getting outside of your head and like checking in with yourself is to really see, you know, where you're at and pay more attention to yourself. And doing so is going to allow you to actually truly know yourself better. And it's also going to like cause you to be more in tune with yourself, which in the long run is going to lead you to be like the person that you want to be, the woman you want to be, instead of like operating out of like fear or like a limiting mindset. Like none of that. Like it'll truly be making decisions about, you know, what's best for you and how things are affecting you in real time, instead of what you have like crafted in your own mind of what you think is the right thing or what you think makes sense, as opposed to what actually does make sense. And you know, sometimes it'll come easily, and then other times it'll come hard and it'll be difficult, and you're really gonna have to push yourself, like I had to do for my dance intensive. But at the end of the day, you're always gonna know whether or not it was the right thing, because like there's just gonna be something that feels right, like feels like a shift happened, like a change happened, like something clicked into place and things just make more sense. You're gonna feel more comfortable, not, you know, in your head and like the way that your mind tells you to be comfortable, but like there's a sense of like wholeness. So if you guys feel like you can like relate to this at all, definitely let me know in the comments below by telling me about a time where like you had to push past something you thought you knew, or maybe like you were humbled by a friend, by your faith, yourself even. And definitely give this video a like, subscribe to my channel. And with that, I'll see you guys in lesson 3.